Hello and a very warm welcome to you all. I'm Vikas Nangia with another episode of CyberWatch, a program through which you get to meet entrepreneurs, technocrats, and subject matter experts. Ladies and gentlemen, the concepts of credit and fraud scores have been around for decades. But in the present day and age, people talk about digital trust score. Well, what is digital trust score? We are going to discover that on our today's episode. Our special guests on the program, the first one you all are very familiar with, an industry veteran, Lalit Ahluwalia, the founder and CEO of DigitalXForce and iTrustXForce. Our second guest on the program is Sachin Bansal. He is the president of SecurityScorecard. So today with both these guests on the program, we'll discuss on the topic need for digital trust score. Lalit and Sachin, thank you so very much for joining us on TV Asia's CyberWatch. And on the sidelines, I'd also like to bring to the attention of our viewers, as you could trust and count on Sachin Tendulkar on cricket field, you could count on Sachin Bansal on the sidelines for stand-up comedy as well. He is hilarious. He's damn good with that.
I've been told, go back to your country, and that's not very nice, because I am born and raised in Connecticut. Please don't make me go back to Connecticut. There's not a lot of brown people in Connecticut.
So Sachin and Lalit, welcome to CyberWatch. Let me get your take on the topic, need for digital trust score. Sachin, go ahead. Please explain us, first of all, what is digital trust score?
Okay, sure. Thank you, first of all, Vikas, for having me. Lalit, thank you as well for having me as well. In cybersecurity, this is one of the few areas where we have not had measurement. In all other areas of our life, we have had the ability to measure, to score. For example, we go to a doctor's office and we get a blood report. I don't know about you, Vikas, or you, Lalit, but mine could be a little bit better. My cholesterol.
Well, you're younger than both of us. Yours should be better.
It should be better, and my sugar could be a little bit better. And I live in New York City. I hear that people who have cars, they have speedometers. My car is the New York City subway. People complain about it, that it breaks down, but it's actually pretty good. But people who have cars, they have speedometers. It tells them if they should go faster or slower. I wear an Apple Watch. I'm not going to tell you how many steps I've taken today. I'm embarrassed by the number. But in cybersecurity, we've been flying blind. And so SecurityScorecard, we started the company, our founders, Alex and Sam, started about 10 years ago because there were no metrics when it came to cybersecurity for your own cyber resilience, but in particular for your vendors, your third parties, your digital supply chain. And what we're calling a digital trust score today on the show.
He kind of highlighted the need of the hour. And I would still say a big deficiency as we are transforming to the digital age, as we're becoming more and more a big consumer of anything digital, and the digital itself is changing. We have not really found a way to standardize and start measuring what is the risk of adopting or leveraging or using. And that's the reason why we're talking today about the digital trust score. So today, if you look around, like we took an example of self-driving car.
Right.
Now, how do I really know for sure that if I take this self-driving car, like I find what's the mileage? If I charge this once, it's going to go to like 500 miles, great. It's going to drive safely somewhere, great. It has all the luxury features, but what about the safety of the car itself? When I'm asking or expecting it to take to point A to point B, how safely can take me there? What if on the middle of the highway it's not going to get compromised? How would I know that? It's just based on the salesman telling me that this car is secure, or should I be really trusting with some kind of real score associated with that has been calibrated? Right. Unfortunately, we neither have the score measurement or the calibration methods today. And that's just one example. From smart cities to smart homes to space tourism to remote healthcare to remote work, name anything, becoming more and more digital, even AI. Whatever you're seeing on, let's say, Instagrams or Facebooks, give me a digital trust score that I should be trusting this news.
Well, and what Lalit said there is standard, right? We need something standardized.
Right.
And the reason we have a security rating, right, which is what SecurityScorecard does, and why we have security ratings that now exist,
right,
or what we're calling a digital trust score today, is because we need a common language.
Right.
And the analogy is a credit score, right? So you wouldn't get a bank loan without your credit score being checked.
Right.
So now we have a way of actually measuring cyber health. We do it on an A through F letter grade system. There are other organizations that use a credit rating system, but this allows consumers and organizations to be able to have a common framework and a common language.
Right. Can you elaborate on this? How do you measure the digital trust score, and what is its effectiveness?
The way we measure it is like a neighborhood watchman almost. We're able to measure it from the outside in. You can observe cyber resilience from as if you're walking down the street of a neighborhood, and you're able to see a house that has a lawn that's not been mowed. And back when people actually got newspapers delivered, now we all get it on our phones and our iPads and so forth. But if we saw newspapers piled up, we saw broken windows, we saw broken glass, we would surmise that that home from the outside is not secure. And so we therefore generate a score that would be low for that home. The opposite is if we observe a home that has attack dogs outside, an armed guard, a gate, and so forth, then that home likely has amazing security. And generally, you would similarly conclude that if the outside perimeter security is very strong, the internal security is likely to be also very strong.
Right.
And so typically, it's as the heavily regulated financial institutions, the pharmaceuticals, those organizations have very strong, high letter grades in our rating system.
Yeah. And I'll maybe expand on that, right? So looking from outside the neighborhood watch, what neighborhood you are in, the other factors like what the city has deployed resources around, the other factors come which you can observe and create. That's your outside in score. Now, complement that with what SecurityScorecard, like what we were talking about, the DigitalXForce. What we're talking about is now not just the outside in, but even inside out. So you look at me and Sachin, wow, you look great. I'm looking like you're pretty clean, you look very active and everything. But unless you really do my blood measurements, unless do my cholesterol rating, because you kind of visually analyze that, once you start doing that and adding the parameters, now outside in start matching the inside out. And what we've really seen time and again, you need to do this whole inside out and outside in, and when you combine together and start calibrating as a total score, that's the kind of convention we want to bring to the market, to everyone. Doesn't matter who it is right now sitting. Even if you want to go to a new school and that says, okay, we're going to teach you online. Okay, ask them, what's your digital trust score?
Right.
What methods are they choosing? What curriculum they're going to have? What kind of calibrations they have in place? If I'm going to go and get a remote healthcare services from a doctor's office, I would ask the same question. If I'm hiring a party that are actually doing me internet services and other things, I better be asking for that thing. And again, think of more and more services, the digital services you're going to be consuming, including tomorrow we're going to talk to Gurdeep, electric service providers.
Right.
The gas providers.
Right.
I don't want to deal with anyone that has been compromised and can compromise by.
Sure.
Especially when I'm going to smart meters and smart homes and other things. How we'll be able to cope up with that? When we have this convention, the standardization of digital trust score. But all that has to be done against the defined parameters that truly can do the digital health check for you.
Viewers, we're going to take a short commercial break over here and resume our conversation with Sachin and Lalit. Stay tuned and keep watching CyberWatch. Welcome back. You're watching CyberWatch. I'm Vikas Nangia. Ladies and gentlemen, today with our guests in the studio, Lalit Ahluwalia and Sachin Bansal, we are talking on the topic need for digital trust score. Gentlemen, once again, welcome to TV Asia CyberWatch. And I must tell all our viewers, ever since I've known Sachin Bansal, this is the first time ever he's answering my questions so seriously. If you don't believe me, take a look at this excerpt of him performing as a stand-up comedian.
Some of you are just looking at me like, can he fix my computer? Or my iPhone? Or my Android? I can do both! I'm Indian, baby! Tech support's in the blood! We born with it! My wife is Indian, I'm her tech support. That's how good I am.
Didn't I tell you that he's a funny guy? Thank you. It was just hilarious, Sachin. So I want to talk a bit about your passion for stand-up comedy as well. I mean, what a contrast as a technocrat and then stand-up comedy.
I got into stand-up comedy 10 years ago. I'm trained through the Comedy Cellar, but the running joke at my office is that I'm a bad executive and I'm a bad comedian. So that I can't do either. But in all seriousness though, my company's incredibly supportive of the fact that I do comedy, and I've infused comedy into the culture of our company to the point where we have comedy for our employees. We've even had it at our board dinners, for our customers, because laughter, we need it, especially coming out of this pandemic.
Right.
And I mean, I could make a lot of jokes about Lalit's outfit, but I won't. You know, I mean.
You said it all, man. You said it all.
I mean, it looks like he was an extra coming out of a GQ shoot before this, right? And instead, he just walked onto this TV Asia shoot instead. But you know, I don't even know if he actually is a CEO of this company, but it's okay. We're gonna believe it, all right? He's not an actor, is he? He actually is.
Well, this was my impression when I met him for the first time. Ask him. Didn't
Right.
I ask him the same question? That have you been modeling or doing something on the sidelines?
He's not from Bollywood or anything, is he? I mean,
You have to ask him.
okay.
I can give you a digital trust score of 100 on that. I'm not.
Well, let me now get back to the topic again.
Yeah, sure. We'll let you get back to
you know,
it.
with two of the individuals, one who's an expert in digital trust score, and the other one who's a cybersecurity expert. So let me just ask you, how does cybersecurity and digital trust score works hand in hand? I'll start with you first, and then reach out to Lalit.
Sure. One thing that we didn't cover yet, I want to make sure we do, is the reason for really why you need to have a security rating, why measuring cybersecurity is so important, is because most of the data breaches happen not because of your own security, but because of your third parties, your vendors. Let's take any of us, right, as individuals. We have so many third parties and vendors that we as individuals have. We have multiple airlines, hotels that we work with, banks. I'm sure you have more than one subscription to Netflix or Hulu and other networks,
Sure. Not
as good as TV Asia. And companies have thousands, if not tens of thousands. If you're a company and one of your vendors or third parties, business partners gets hacked, it's your name that's on the line. And so the security rating protects you and your digital supply chain. That's the real purpose of it.
I just want to connect the dot. You know, जब घर पे you keep a new driver, या maid. We all were familiar, like we do the background check. Yeah, we check the history. Because giving them access to your house or to your assets exposes the vulnerability. It's a very different level of trust.
Sure.
You don't want to expose yourself. Exactly what the digitals, or the organizations when they hire the third parties, what they're really doing. They're giving exposure to their assets, to the systems, and if they get exposed or they do something malicious, who's going to get compromised? The main organization. The same concept applies, and hence why rating of those third parties is going to be critical, and you got to do that before you hire and do that. But now let me take it back to what you were saying, how the cybersecurity and digital trust work together. There's no digital trust without cybersecurity. As simple as that. People have some this confusing matrix of compliance being the confidence score. Oh, if you're compliant with this, like regulations, like HIPAA compliant, PCI compliant, that's not where the digital trust score comes in. The digital trust score comes in when your hygiene, the cyber hygiene inside out and outside in is good. For example, आपका घर है, आपने घर को protect करना है, तो आपने security cameras लगा रखे हैं, you have the locking system, you want to make sure you're living in a nice neighborhood, you're making sure they're patrolling on the regular basis, you're measuring and monitoring on a regular basis कि घर पे क्या हो रहा है, right? These are the common measures you take. The same way, and plus, you have the safes within your house, important documents, in several documents, they're double locked or in that kind of thing.
Right.
Any organization जो digital business कर रही है, they do the same thing. They have to make sure the right people get the right access. They've got to make sure कोई भी events हैं, activities हो रही हैं, they're being monitored कि कोई network को hijack नहीं कर रहा है या कुछ नहीं कर रहा है. They want to make sure जब हम आपको data दे रहे हैं या financial transaction हो रहे हैं, they're encrypted. What are these things? These are measures. And in order to do that, you deploy different security tools and everything. The question now is, am I continuously and in a real time checking what's happening and how effectively they're working? When I start measuring that, what is really doing? They're giving me the confidence score. The confidence score that yes, that things are working and I'm measuring on a regular basis.
Right.
And when that's happening over and over time, guess what? It's building my trust in those systems.
Right.
Complement that with what Sachin tell, my neighborhood watch concept. Outside and also, you're doing all the right things. You are making sure it's protected from outside. I'm doing everything that is keeping me safe and secure and doing that. Now my trust in that particular service becomes very high. But if I did not have those cybersecurity hygiene,
right,
I would never would have built a good digital trust score.
Right.
So there is no digital trust score without the having good cyber hygiene. That's how they really go hand in hand. And one thing I really want to and this is something we are trying to create more and more awareness. Security or digital trust is not equal to compliance. Because many people have this wrong notion. I'm compliant means I'm secure.
Correct.
And let me throw that out right away. Notion. Compliance does not mean security.
Right. So it's time for us to take a short commercial break over here. But when we come back, I want you to, suggest of some relevant case studies, where implications were there because of lack of digital trust score. And yes, when we come back, we will first take a look at the CyberWatch news flash. We'll be right back after these messages. Lalit and Sachin, thank you so very much for joining us. We're in our third segment, and before we proceed further with our topic of conversation, let's take a quick look at the CyberWatch news flash. U.S. water systems under cyber siege. Experts warn of critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. The United States is facing an escalating cybersecurity crisis targeting its water infrastructure, with recent attacks on utilities in Kansas, Texas, and Pennsylvania highlighting the growing threat. Experts warn that these cyber attacks could potentially damage infrastructure, disrupt water availability, and contaminate public drinking water supplies. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has raised alarms, revealing that 70% of inspected water systems fail to fully comply with Safe Drinking Water Act requirements. Vulnerabilities include unchanged default passwords, single login setups, and former employees retaining access. While hackers often employ simple methods like phishing and social engineering, the stakes are high. Foreign-linked cybercriminals, including groups from Iran, China, and Russia, have targeted U.S. water systems, sometimes with geopolitical motives. The psychological impact on the population is a significant concern, as these attacks can erode public trust in water safety. All right, so let's resume back to our conversation. Give us some insight and bring in some reference of a case study where viewers could understand significance of digital trust score. Sachin, I'll start with you.
There's been a lot of breaches, right, in the news lately. So one of the more recent breaches was there was an organization called Change Healthcare, and this is an organization that was compromised, and it's an example of how a third-party supply chain attack. And what that means in cybersecurity is that it's an organization that provides a third party or vendor service to many organizations. And in this instance, this is a healthcare organization that was fulfilling payments to many doctor offices around the country. So when they had the cyber attack recently, thousands of medical offices around the country simply couldn't process payments for weeks and weeks on end. And it caused tremendous chaos in the US healthcare system. And that's just one example of how a cyber attack can have a rippling effect when it occurs in the supply chain context, and we've been seeing this over and over again. There was another organization called SolarWinds a few years ago that happened, and there are other examples as well that we can talk about.
The concept of breaches, I don't think that anyone in the audience will be. Every day you pick up like your newspaper or like any headlines. There's some of the other headlines about the breach. It's happening everywhere. And it's bound to happen because now the attack surface has kind of grown beyond our reach, and the attack techniques have also become very sophisticated, so it's bound to happen. So it's not if, it's when.
Right.
Now, coming to where something like digital trust score could really help kind of bridge the gap. So think of this way, and I'm going to build on the common concept, because most organizations, even smaller businesses, use third-party suppliers.
Sure.
Okay, when you're using those third-party suppliers, same thing like when you are trying to hire a maid, what would you do? You will ask your neighbors.
Neighbors, or maybe route.
Hey, how much you trust this maid?
Like agency,
or agency.
Correct.
Can you have done the background checks? You kind of like do all the history checks and everything before you let them in.
Right.
Unfortunately, today we rely on that compliance yardstick. Like, give me some certification, this and stuff, and let you in.
Right.
Now, a lot of these are paper-based exercises. They do not really hold much of a meaning. They're not your digital trust, which we discussed earlier. Now, when these third parties, like let's say, who are get compromised and then lead to the larger compromise, if they were were established with the digital trust, guess what would happen? My probability of breaches go down. That's one example. Now, as an example, we had even likes of Apple, who rely on the smaller vendors to really create something. They got breached because the third party got breached.
Right.
We had a massive breach in the state of Texas. The ransomware attack happened. That was not because of the core systems. It was the third suppliers, because they're easy attack pattern. If I compromise, you already given me the keys to the kingdom. I'm into your major systems, which are also serving citizens. I don't need to hack the main when easy accessibility is there. पीछे का दरवाजा खुला है, मेरे को बाहर front door पे क्यों मालूम break करना है?
Right.
I just need to go to the back door.
Correct.
And the back door you've given to someone who's sleeping all the time.
So
Guess what?
Yeah, I think the simple answer is that if you use the score, the rating, now that we have this framework, it's continuous, it's automated,
It's real time.
it's real time, and it involves AI, and it allows for accountability for your own organization and your digital supply chain.
Right. So moving forward, what consumers should be taking a close look? How is the rating done?
I mean, any consumer can go on our website and get a rating for their own organization for free.
Okay.
They can go on securityscorecard.com and type in the name of their company, their nonprofit, or their government agency and get their security scorecard rating for free. And they should find out, for whatever organization they're associated with or affiliated or doing business with, what is their security rating. We very simply, we rate on a letter grade system A through F, and it's based on your cyber health out from an outside in, based on externally observable signals and data on how well do you close out certain vulnerabilities, how well do you patch your systems, your devices like your computers, your mobile devices and so forth, the health of your various domains, your IP addresses and so forth. Taking all those different data points, we rate them and arrive at a total score.
You know, when you like try and do business, even at a common one-to-one level, Angie's List, and you go like, you look at the rating of the service provider.
Right, correct.
Anytime you want to now consume any digital services, you better like watch Digital Trust Score now as well. The senior citizens, guess what? They're not watching for all this. But if you make it very simple for them, hey, the service that you're trying to consume is Digital Trust Score is this, guess what? They know. They at least can mark themselves there.
And do you guys do that kind of marking? How do you make it easy for consumers to understand?
We grade A through F. We might have left school, but school hasn't left us. Very simple A. Easy to understand, letter grade system.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you for that insight and sharing that knowledge with our viewers.
I really appreciate being on your show. It was terrific. Lola, thank you so much. Really appreciate being here.
It was a pleasure to have you both on the program. Viewers, if you want to write into us and send your questions and queries, send us and write us the email at cyberwatch@tvasiausa.com. And if you want to connect with Lalit Ahluwalia directly, Lalit, what's the best way out?
Come to our websites, the digitalxforce.com or iTrustXForce.com, or like through our social media pages. We're always available.
Great. And remember that CyberWatch is powered by DigitalXForce and iTrustXForce. Lalit and Sachin, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Viewers, this brings us to the end of our tonight's broadcast. Until next time, this is Vikas Nangia signing off. Thank you for joining us.